Ready to get this party started. So I'm super excited and I cannot hide it. And why should I? So this is something that I've really enjoyed putting together for you guys. And I am actually going to be a spectator in this as well. I am hosting, I am moderating, but this is something that I want to learn from this incredible woman. So for me, I'm super excited that she's able to join us here today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you a person, a being who is super special. Ruqya Khan is not only an author, she's a motivational speaker, she's a TEDx speaker, and she's spoken on one of the most incredible topics that I love, the art of possibility, which I'm going to go into later. She's also a SMILE strategist, which is what we're going to delve into today. She is a life coach, an NLP practitioner, master practitioner, and with all of that, she is here to actually share with us what her principles are and how we can take those principles, allowing us to get unstuck and move forward, especially when we're dealing with such challenging times. So without further ado, welcome, Ruqya. How are you doing, girl?
Thank you, Fari. Thank you for having me on board as your first speaker. Truly, truly an honor. And oh my God, the introduction. I think this is the first time where a wordsmith is lost for words. I do not know how to thank you enough. So yes, thank you. Means a lot coming on board as your first speaker, and this is something that you've come up with amazing. Stay connected, because yes, that's what we need to do, right? To stay connected, not just with others, but also most importantly with our own selves, and understanding, appreciating what's going on and how we can move forward from there. What would you like to know about me? You've said it all.
I have so many things to ask you. So first of all, one of the reasons behind why I want to reach out and connect to people is I really want the community that I cultivate as entrepreneurs, aspiring, existing, how to start, how to scale, and dealing with everything that's happening right now in the world on a global pandemic that we're dealing with. This scenario is really becoming quite challenging for a lot of us. I'm seeing a lot of people are thriving, their business is pivoting and they're moving forward. But I really want to know, someone such as yourself who is a speaker, and I'm sure you have a lot of your your business comes through you being out there and speaking to the audience. So I really want to know, how are you dealing with the restrictions for your outreach, and how are you dealing with that? How is your business dealing with what's going on in the current situation with COVID-19?
So I do not want to sound cliche, but this really has come as a blessing in disguise for me. So what I used to think as, okay, I need to be out there, I need to be speaking, I need to be at events. Now what has happened is the events are coming home. For example, I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to so many others. I get to coach with to people from different countries altogether. I wasn't even thinking that initially, but now because I'm stuck home, I have a means to do Zoom calls, to do one-to-one coaching with people. I am speaking at schools and universities through their webinar system, because everybody's doing, education, online classes and stuff. So the need for mindset coaching has gone up a level up, because obviously we need it now. We need to understand where we are and how we can kind of keep that mental state balanced, and not just go that way. And there will be times that you go that way and you go haywire, and that's fine. Allow yourself that. You don't have to be wishy-washy and positive all the time. There will be days when you feel a little shook up, and that's okay. Allowing yourself that space. And so for me as an entrepreneur, this time has become a time for me to reinvent, has become a time for me to realign, take a step back, understand, measure, and then move forward. If that makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, that is exactly where a lot of us are at times having issues taking everything in. Like we can sometimes feel very overwhelmed with, where do I start? So to answer that question, where do you start with the SMILE strategy? Can you walk us through what it actually represents and how it can help us as entrepreneurs, even if we are just finding difficulty in dealing with this on a personal level? How can we actually use your SMILE strategy? Go through that for us for a little bit. And I think through that, I'm going to have a lot more questions. So just walk us through the SMILE strategy so we can get to know what it is.
Absolutely. So the SMILE strategy was coined in 2016 when I did the TEDx talk, the Art of Possibility. I did it because I did the talk only because I was fed up of people complaining. I was fed up of people complaining about everything else except for themselves. They weren't taking accountability. So I said the art of possibility. You get from feeling stuck to unstuck using gratitude and acceptance. And I say acceptance comes when you smile. So S stands for silence the mind. So when you have this huge challenge that you're looking for, oh yes.
That's what I'm doing constantly. It's the silencing of this monkey mind that we have.
Yes, the chatter. M is manage your attention. So when things go wrong, what are you focusing on? Are you looking at possibilities, or are you looking at the disaster that could possibly happen? So manage your attention. Identify the intention. The most important fuel that most of us forget. You know, we go on this mission, but we don't know what's driving us. We don't know why we're doing what we're doing. Most often we don't. So identify the intention. Let things go and energize the possibilities. So yeah, the L, which is let things go. I've presented these sessions in different countries, in Singapore, in Egypt, in UK, India, but Kuwait. Everywhere that I've done this session, let things go is the one that has people rolling their eyes the most, because that's, I think, the toughest one for most of us.
Yeah. So then let me ask you this. How, because for me, I think I'm speaking to a lot of different business owners and their need to forecast when this is going to end, when things are going to get back to some form of normality, if you like to call it. It's controlling what they're hearing and receiving as information and what they are doing internally. So again, I would say really going into the mind aspect. So if we start with S and how we're able to silence the mind, in theory, I think it seems pretty straightforward, but in practice, I can say firsthand experience, I have to literally have that conversation with myself on a daily basis. And if, for example, I get an email and what I was expecting to happen is delayed, or projects that I was supposed to work on for the, March, April, even during May, they all had to be postponed. That was income I was, betting on and I was relying on. How do we silence the mind and the negative talk that we have internally so that we're able to actually sift through and filter that is helping us to find a productive solution and something that can help us to move forward? How can we actually silence the mind? Do you have any techniques on how we can use to do that?
So one of the things that I ask people to do is to have an appointment with worry.
Say that again. Have an appointment with worry?
Yes. So fix
I'm
the
not
time.
sure I want to do that, Ruqya.
See, what happens is if you decide for yourself that, the by default response to something like that would be to panic, to worry, right? And it's natural. But what if you tell yourself, I am going to worry about this, but not now. I'm going to worry about this maybe 24 hours later, maybe 36 hours later. Just you've decided for yourself. So subconsciously, you've given yourself permission to worry after this time. And yes, you will. Yeah.
Well, I just want to confirm with that. That's pretty powerful. So you park the worry for a later date, consciously making that decision that I'm not going to worry right now. You're not ignoring it, but you're just going to do it at a later date. Wow, that's genuinely something I never actually thought about.
So it's like giving yourself that permission. Yes, I do know that I'm going to worry about this, but I will worry about it sometime later. So what happens is when you've parked your worry aside, you've opened up this possibility and space in your mind for looking at what else is possible,
Beautiful. I love that. So it opens your mind to search for the possibilities that worry is blocking, ultimately.
Yeah, because
so
if
that
your mind
roadblock is lifted.
Yeah. So if your mind is clouded with worry, you're not going to be able to think clearly. It's just going to be lots of thunderstorm and lots of stuff going on in there. So instead of just going with that and getting drenched in worry, park it aside and then look at what you can do with your time, with your resources, who are the people you can reach out to, what are the alternatives possible, you know, re-strategize.
Okay, so that's the first part of it. I'd like to know from your point of view, which one or which of these principles did you find was quite challenging for you to master?
I think the very first one, to be very honest. Yes, it is the very
So we
first
share
one.
the same thing.
Yes, we do. But and also L, which is let things go.
Yeah.
L as well. So when I'll tell you why when we get to it, but silencing the mind is absolutely the one that is the most difficult. One of the techniques is, of course, meditation and breath work. And the kind of person that I am, I mean, I cannot even be hypnotized. I mean, I'm not claiming this, but when we went through a mastery program, the person who was doing the hypnosis with me, I just had to pretend I've been hypnotized so that she has an experience. But for me, I couldn't kind of stop thinking. But what I realized is when you're meditating, you're not stopping to think. It's like telling your body, okay, I'm going into meditation and my liver needs to stop functioning because I am meditating. Your brain is going to think. That's its basic function. The idea of being successful in meditating is to watch your your thoughts float by as if they were clouds, not latching onto them. So yeah.
I
And
think
meditation.
sorry, I carry on meditating, yeah.
I think meditation can happen at any point. It doesn't have to be that I'm fixing a time for meditating in the morning, 15 minutes. Some people don't have that luxury. Maybe while you're doing your daily work, maybe while you're driving, maybe while you're listening, maybe while you're exercising, you can just be in that place of focus and not letting anything else interrupt you. Even that for me is meditation.
So is that what you would say, for me, while you were going through the SMILE acronym, the manage your attention, would that be more about where you actually focus and which thoughts you focus on? Is that maybe
Yeah.
somehow how we can filter through the thousands? Because I mean, obviously, throughout my own learnings as well, I realized the magnitude and the power of our mind, that we have over 60,000 thoughts a day, and to not even be aware of what's going on in our mind, I think that's the scary part. So the meditation is one tool that I really respect. I have to hold my hand up and say I haven't been consistent in my meditation process. This quarantine phase has allowed me to have way more time that I can actually put on my own practices. And I think what you just literally said about, you know, watching the thoughts that you have like clouds, I remember learning that process and I did it so well, then I forgot because life got in the way. And when you have to do so many things, you don't really practice it as consciously when you are in the flow of things. And managing your attention, I think, is very important. When you mentioned, you know, focus, I think that's something when a lot of people are perhaps focusing on something which is not helping them. And if it's not harming them, they're not noticing it, but it's not really helping their progress from being stuck to being unstuck. And I think that level of attention, how can you decide what you put your focus on? Maybe a little bit of support on knowing that. What would you suggest to know what to focus on?
So looking at your results, just when you come to silencing the mind and taking a step back, you have a clearer picture on what you're doing and what results you're getting from it. The first step itself leads to the next, wherein, you know, when you silence your mind, when you stop having that conversation or your thoughts, and you take a step back, that's when you realize, oh, okay, so this is what I've been doing and this hasn't been working, or, you know, this has been giving me better results. So what would you like to focus on? And just making sure that that's where you're going.
Okay, so if we put it in the perspective of, let's say, for example, I'm actually working with clients still. Their events that they wanted to have in, you know, physical terms, they're not able to have, so they're now transferring them to, you know, online sessions very similar to this, and creating all of their marketing material and their strategy and getting their infrastructure up and running, and all of this has been a learning curve for me, not only for the company that I'm working with, but as a client. They were inundated with requests of what they wanted to do, and they just threw them at me. And I had to literally sit through and prioritize which one am I going to take? I cannot physically take all of them, because even the people, I work with a lot of freelancers, and their level of working has been shaken up a little bit. So finding the right freelancers that we can work on remotely and getting on with things where we don't really have that contact that we used to have has been quite a challenge for myself. So figuring out which projects to take on, or which clients to work with, or what we actually put our time into, how can we figure that out if we have, say, 7 or 8 things happening at the same time? How do we pick the priority list? How can we do that from your point of view?
Okay, so something that you can do in this scenario would be probably to look at what results you're looking for and working your way backwards. Listing out the projects maybe in a tabular column or doing a mind map, whatever works for you, and just seeing which ones tick the boxes the most, and then deciding, okay, so this is how these are the results I require. This is the kind of effort I need to put into. Does it match? Am I willing to put in that much time for these results? Or is there a better way of doing things? You know, just understanding what are the results you're working towards, and then kind of ticking off those boxes for the different projects that you have, and then deciding which one comes first, which is the one that you would like to really tackle, and then, you know, progress thereon.
I love what you said about mind mapping, because it's one of my favorite things to do. I feel like it's a way that I can just brain dump everything and then let them connect to one another and figure out where I'm going and what I'm doing. And there's always some beautiful flow that it all does kind of connect. One that's very out of, you know, just off the charts completely, I then know that's not really where my focus is. It's an idea, but it's not really aligned to the bigger picture. So I love the fact that you mentioned mind maps. That's been something very powerful in my own process. And I've seen people sitting in events where they actually are writing things in a mind map form rather than a list form. And I realized that was very powerful for me too. And I got one of these really cool pens. I don't know if you remember them, that back in school they were, yes, exactly. I had one of those. And I was like, I have each one and this is like a priority. And I was like literally sitting there, and it became quite a cathartic process, because I realized I was actually retaining more of what I was learning, as well as when it came to then realizing what am I doing with all this information, it became very simple for me to then categorize everything. So finding ways that work for you, like mind maps, and using some really cool little funky pens and stuff. I know it's small in the big scheme of things, but I think it makes a big difference. Like little things do make a big impact in the wider scheme when you look at it. So I love the fact that you mentioned mind maps. So that's an interesting tool. I've got another question for you. So while we're in the flow of understanding how to let things go, please tell me how that's possible. The difference between surrender and accepting what isn't working for you and then letting it go, and what all of that means. I've been figuring it out in the last couple of weeks, and it's been something very challenging for me to understand how I can really let go of certain things and have closure on what I wanted to do that's just not going to work. So can you please give me some guidance, because I know it will help a lot of people to understand how can we let go of things when we're so attached to the outcome that we desired for it to be.
Okay, so one of the examples that I had given somebody recently on a session was, suppose you're in the kitchen and you're pulling out this large jar full of sugar, and it's a glass jar, it's a glass container, and you're pulling it out and it falls. And what happens is there's sugar all over the place, you've got large pieces of glass all over, and you collect it and you throw it away, okay? And you think that it's done and dusted. But what happens, you have these tiny little pieces that somehow are hiding away, that sometimes come up. And that's okay, because they're hidden away. So what I'm saying is, yes, you could have had a failure, or you could have had a loss, but that doesn't have to define you. You have to let it go. And if a memory from that loss comes up, it's just as simple as saying, ouch, taking that little piece of glass away, and then discarding it, saying, okay, I felt a little hurt, but that's okay. I will move on. And in due time, things do clear up. What I think the mistake that most of us do is we think that we have to let it go in one shot. And what we don't realize is by holding on to that ideology that you have to let it go in one shot, you think, okay, I can't do this, so I won't do it. I won't do it at all. Even slightest progress is progress.
Yeah, I agree. I think our focus is more on the outcome rather than the process. And we often forget that small incremental levels of progress and improvement do eventually end up in some level to a successful outcome. It might be very different to what we intended it to be, but I think that's again a testament to consistency and keeping the level of the momentum going, and your focus on you know, as they say, keep your eye on the prize. Keep that level of focus maintained, and the energy flow will continue towards what you want to achieve. I think that's been one of the trickiest parts of dealing with everything that's going on a global level, that you are only one piece in the puzzle, and coming to terms with understanding how you have to pivot, how you, like, both of us are you know, outward going people. We run our business on events, and that requires an audience. And for me personally, I really enjoy going out there, connecting to brand new people and speaking with them and just listening to them, and being in that environment. I actually thrive on that. I love it. So for me, when the doors were closed and we were then told you cannot have any gatherings bigger than, you know, 10 people maximum, I was like, are you kidding me right now? I've got a whole plan of events that I'm going to be launching. What are you talking about? That's just not going to work. And it took me about, I would say, a good 3 weeks to come to terms with the fact that it's just not going to happen like that. It will happen if I wanted to, but the process I had, you know, fixed on, it's just not going to happen in that way. And letting go of that idea or that plan, that was quite difficult to you know, adjust to. And I think using your metaphor in the fact that it was that glass jar of sugar, yeah, okay, the idea of all the events has smashed. I can't do them as I thought it would, because that was my easy way. I had my venues, I had my people, I just go out there and do it. Now it's a very different process. I have to go through fundamentally, like, discovering brand new platforms. And that's why for us, I mean, for me personally, I'm discovering new platforms. So I'm trying this one out, seeing how it works, which is why it took me a little bit longer. But I think that aspect of, okay, it's not all going to happen in one go. You can take your time, and it's taken me time to do it. That, I think, is something that we often don't understand, the impact of it's all or nothing. No, you can take your time, and your time is, in your perspective, it could be a week, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 months, but it just take your time and don't put pressure that you have to get on with everything and just accept it as it is in one go. Am I right? And did I kind of understand what you were saying?
Absolutely. And it's also about, okay, so when that's one level of it, and then about failures. A lot of us hold on to the label thinking, that's me. But you're not the failure. You're the one who had a failure. You know, you need to let go of those labels that you've given yourself. You need to let go of failures and fears, because that's not you. You've had it. It's not you. It's two different things altogether. So letting go of that is also important. And forgiveness.
Yeah. That's another one. I mean, you're talking about massive things right now, you know. Failing and forgiveness are like my two favorite F words. And you've actually beautifully, and I'm getting goosebumps now, you beautifully segued into my next question about moving forward. So you know that I do FundDXP, which is all about sharing failure stories of entrepreneurs. And it's one of the things that I genuinely love to do on a monthly basis. And that whole topic of failure, I'm really interested to learn from other entrepreneurs who are going through their own journey, and everyone at some stage, at some level, have experienced some form of failure. So I'd love to know, from your perspective, what would you say has been the failure that created the most impact in your life, that allowed you to move forward? What did it teach you? I'm really intrigued to
Whew. So 2
yes, you
days
can
ago,
take a little time to think about it. It's a powerful question.
yes, thank you for asking. So 2 days ago on my Facebook Live, I did a quote which says, "Scars can be badges of honor."
Okay.
Yeah. So building from your question, I feel that I wouldn't call it a failure, but I would say the one time that I found myself silent and in a dark space was when I lost my dad. And when that was also the time when the children left the nest, you know, they went off to university. So I wasn't essentially on my own, but I didn't have that something to look forward to in life, that drive. Suddenly, whoosh, it disappeared. So it took me a while. It took me a while to realize, was I ready to heal? Was I ready to move forward? Was I ready to start doing the stuff that I wanted to? So giving yourself that time to, you know, to recuperate, to stand up again, to be ready to stand up again, being patient with yourself, being kind, not pushing yourself into that space of do, because there are lots of us who kind of numb out the pain of a loss or of a failure by constantly rushing to achieve all over again. But taking that time to just take a step back, understand what went wrong, acknowledge it, learn from it, and then move forward. So you're better equipped, you know, that's important.
I think that's very, very powerful. That and as you were saying it, I was really understanding from a different point of view. You dealing with being on your own and having that much time got you to understand about patience. And that's the word that while you were saying your experience, you were sharing, it was more about patience. And I think
Yeah.
we often don't give ourselves enough time to really just ask ourselves important questions. Like, if we want to start a new business, I've had people who are asking me, this is the time for me to start a business. What should I do? And literally, I am like, I am not going to give you a list of businesses that you can start. It's your process of discovery to figure out what is your talent, where does your passion lie, and more importantly, what is it you want to do in your life? Like, what is your purpose in as far as who do you want to serve? What is the reason why you want to start a business? Is it monetary gain? Great. If it is, then you at least know where your focus is. But if it's more about service, if it's more about creating the next best thing or disrupting the industry or whatever it might be, understanding that, having the patience to ask yourself those questions when there's not, and I don't want to say it in a derogatory way, but distraction. When you have so many things happening, like you had the kids and all of these things, you were distracted and you possibly might not have started everything that you wanted to because you didn't actually give yourself the time. Now, or at that process in your time, you spent the time because you didn't have much of a choice. You were kind of thinking, well, what else can I do, you know? And I think that's what a lot of people are realizing in this quarantine phase, and what this whole lockdown process is teaching us is to really go back to the basics and to spend time with ourselves. And that's one of the things that I love the most about connecting. It's connecting to ourselves.
Yep.
And I think you have a beautiful way of using your words. Your gift is in your expression to connect to people. And again, I'm getting my goosebumps, my goodness. The connection that you reach out to people and they somehow, and I always do it when we're either, you know, talking or I'm reading something you've written, I connect to a part of me that I knew was there, but I just forgot about it. And I think this whole scenario, pandemic, crisis, we are seeing a crisis in play, but it's giving us so much time to really look at, where are you going? Are you connected to your business? Do you really want to maneuver into a different level of your business? Do you want to drop that business altogether and start something new? And I'm seeing so many incredible people who are out there doing home workouts, who are doing baking shows and creating different forms of you know, handicraft and artworks and coming out with so many different things that I never knew was their passion. And it's because they were so focused on, this is what I do, this is my business, this is who I am, it's my identity, they kind of forgot about everything else. And I think that's one of the things that you have a gift in connecting to people through your words. And it's a blessing that you've discovered it and you had the strength and the courage to take that leap. Because again, another point, people don't take that leap. They want to, but they still have something holding them back from moving forward. I think that's one major aspect. Did you actually experience that? Was there any fear at the point of when you wanted to start? What was the fear, and how did you move forward from that?
Okay, so October, when the children left, I'd already planted a few seeds in terms of, okay, I come back and I focus on me. That was my grand plan. But of course, things went another way. But because I had connected with a few people, they started getting back to me and saying, hey, listen, we'd like to work with you. And one of those persons was someone from the Prime Minister's office, the Ministry of Happiness. So in March, when they had the Happiness Carnival, she invited me to speak about my SMILE strategy. And no matter how you're feeling, if you get invited by the Prime Minister's office, you don't say no. You turn up.
Bring it out.
You say, yes, ma'am, and you go. So I did. And part of what I needed to do over there at the carnival was to meet with people and share with them about the SMILE strategy. You know, have small group gatherings, groups of students, people, attendees, and just have that conversation about breaking it down, like we are right now, but just smaller ones. And the more I saw people light up because of what I had to share, the more I felt, hey, this is good. You know, I'm just keeping this for myself because I'm in a dark space. So to answer your question, yes, I was scared. And yes, I wasn't in the right mindset. But had I not said yes to that opportunity, I wouldn't have realized that that is my calling. Because until then, I only put up quotes on my Facebook page. People had just seen the quotes. And I flew out. In March was when the Happiness Carnival happened. And in April, I met with my kids. And my son asked me on a bus ride saying, so Ma, what have you been up to? My first response was, I'm your mother. You can't talk to me like that, you know? Yeah. And him being him, a mirror to me, looks at me and he says, all that is great, but what about accountability? And whoosh, it hit me in the face.
Wow.
Yeah, I have interesting children, both of them. So I took the opportunity away from home. I was in Perth with my daughter, and I went through my Instagram and made that entire list, came back. And when I realized I was getting back into that flow of, you know, feeling alone and empty, I asked my tribe, I said, would you like videos? And that's how the daily video started. And today,
yeah. Really? And tell us a little bit more about that. Where are you at with that now? Because it's incredible what you've really, it's just been flowing so naturally for you. And I can imagine creating that much content. That's what you're doing. You're a content creator, but on a regular, consistent level. Kudos to you for doing it. How are you doing it every single day?
For the last 742 days today.
Wait. Say it again. 700?
742 days. So
yeah, I just wanted to say that one more time because it's a huge number, and I hope that you acknowledge where you are with that, because creating that much content, and it's impactful content. It's not just, you know, a picture of a flower and saying how beautiful it is. You're actually sharing, and you're sharing on very significant and important points that we are all going through in our lives, and it's incredible that you're creating that much on such a consistent level.
Thank you. There have been days, I'll be honest, there have been days when I thought, am I getting repetitive? You know, am I saying the same thing over again? And I might be, because 742 days, what are you going to keep saying? And but what I realize is the person who needs to receive that message that day will find it. You know, it could be that I'm saying the same thing over. The person who needs to be reminded of that message will receive it. So I don't need to worry about whether I'm sounding repetitive. I just need to be consistent. I just need to trust what I'm delivering, my purpose, and just deliver it. So yeah, it's not make it about myself. It's not about me. It's about the message.
I think that's where you really have connected with what your path is, because you are not looking at it from a singular point of view inside out. You're looking at it from how can I serve? And that's one of the most valuable things that I think if you are going to start any business or any new initiative or any new project, it's always about how much value can I bring to this? What impact can I create, rather than what am I going to get from it? How am I going to be seen by this? Or looking at it from a different perspective. I think that's maybe one of the key elements that has allowed you to go into 742. I mean, that really is quite a incredible accomplishment. And I know a lot of content creators who run their business on creating content for clients, that they are struggling in finding, you know, powerful things to talk about or important messages to relay, and you're doing it. And even if you are repetitive, like you said, there is someone at that point in time who wants or needs to hear your message, and that's your focus. And I think that's incredibly powerful in itself. So well done to you. I'm literally going to be, I think in a year's time, when you've crossed over the 1,000 days, you have to throw some huge party or something. We need to go to that Ministry of Happiness and just show them what genuinely you have accomplished. I think it's incredible where you're leading so many people into finding answers to questions that they might not have known who to ask. And in some way, if you're thinking about something, the power of your mind and the law of magnetism and attraction will bring you the answers. So you are the answer to so many people. I know it might sound a little bit cliche, but you really are sharing your message. And if anyone who can take something away from that, it would be authentic. You know, the consistency comes in your authenticity. And I think you are truly authentic in your message and your intentions. And I think that's why when you share about the SMILE strategy, it's so you. It's not about and I said this, and I think a lot of people, when they were engaging, when I initially shared about it on social media, when I said, have you heard the SMILE strategy? They were like, yeah, you know, it's about confidence and taking action. And I had different people's points of view, but it was incredible that they just hit the surface level. They didn't even go into the deep level, where it's more about, you know, becoming strong within yourself and you connecting to you setting your foundations right, and then allowing that to give room for growth to anything that you touch. I think that's ultimately what I take away from your SMILE strategy, for me anyway.
Yep, thank you. And we missed out on an alphabet. We missed out on I.
Okay.
Which is interesting because I is intention. It's the foundation. So when you look at the intention, what drives you. So when I made that list of quotes, I also made a list of 200 reasons why I need to change and shift. So on the days that it feels a little dark and it feels like I don't feel like it, that list then becomes fuel. It becomes the reason for why you're doing what you're doing. And it's a great resource to have as a reference for all of the people out there doing entrepreneurship and relationships with their own self. Having that understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. Simon Sinek talks about it, the power of why. You know, it's important to know why you're doing what you're doing.
100%. You just literally named a book that changed the reason why I was going to launch my business and how I was going to launch it. I was looking at it from a very different point of view, and reading that book literally gave me the connection to my purpose and how I can execute and show up, who I was showing up for, and gave me that clarity on my intention. And I literally ask anyone who asks me a question on setting up, or is it the right time to grow my business, to invest in this and find the right investor and partner with these people, whatever question they ask me, my question back to them, as a coach normally does, is why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do what you're planning on doing? Because if you don't know the answer to that question, don't invest time or money into it. That really was fundamental in my growth as an entrepreneur, to understand what inspires me and to continue doing that, so that I'm aligned to whatever I touch on a level of entrepreneurship. So That's very interesting that you have the same, and that's why I is a very, and it is interesting that it's I on intention. What is my intention? It's incredible that the way that it just flows. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Beautiful,
Oh,
beautiful. Yes.
the other thing that I want to really go into a little bit on the SMILE strategy is more about the E. So
Yes.
can you maybe talk a little bit more about the possibilities and that aspect of it as well?
So E stands for energize the possibilities. So like I said earlier on, a lot of us go in for self-development. We go for audiobooks, we listen to podcasts, YouTube videos, courses, books, and all of that. And what do? We do a lot of shelf development instead of self-development. You know,
I love that. It's so good. It's so good. Shelf development versus self-development. I love it. Yeah.
We're taking down notes, we're jotting down all the things that we must do. We're making all of these lists and forms and everything. We have all the tools, but if you don't put it into practice, there's not much you can do, you know. So even the SMILE strategy itself, we've broken it down so beautifully. We've been talking for the last, we've almost touched an hour, and we've broken it down so beautifully. But until you put it into practice, there's not much you're going to get from it. You not get from stuck to unstuck using it, actually applying it. So energize the possibility, put energy into it.
I agree. I think it's incredible how we underestimate our own capacity and our own potential. And when we really look at it in the way that you've just broken it down, it simplifies the whole process, that it's all from us. It's all us, how we show up, what our intention is, what possibilities we can create. It's all within us. And if we just stop blaming external factors and using those as excuses as why we cannot move forward, we'll be able to move forward exponentially on a level that we probably couldn't even imagine. So I think your SMILE strategy is such a powerful one if we actually look at the different principles and just go through them whenever we're facing something which is challenging, difficult, or unexpected. And it just literally, I think it's a little bit of a shake-up, that it kind of just makes you put your priorities in check, makes you reconnect with yourself, and maybe ask yourself those questions that you kind of have been shying away from, which are the important questions that we often don't ask, because we don't want to look at that. It's like, we'll just bury it over there and we'll just get on with things. And now it's like, no. Now you have to lift it and look at those questions and what have you been avoiding. So, and that's one of the most important things that I think your strategy really just highlights. And as an entrepreneur, I think it's something I would love to share with more people moving forward, because there are a lot of people who think being an entrepreneur is more about creating the right business plan, having the right investors, or partnering with the right people, having the right branding, and having everything look right on the outside, and the business plan is the only internal thing. Whereas my focus has always been on, you are the fundamental critical factor of any business. If you don't have the strong foundations within you, you cannot handle rejection, you cannot handle delays, you cannot handle difficult partners, demanding investors. Everything, it starts and ends with you. So get yourself in that strong position and create a business plan that is based on you, aligned to you, and then move forward. And I think the SMILE strategy, if only they can take that and then teach that in schools, holy moly, imagine what could happen. I think you could maybe work it, but when you get to 1,000 days of doing your videos, maybe have another visit. We'll come in with a petition to get this into the schools and see how many lives we can really change by getting people to be looking at things from a very different perspective. How awesome would that be?
That would be awesome, really. I have been doing a bit of mindset training in schools as well, and children love it, because for them it feels like, wow, and it's simple, you know, it's connected with a smile. So and then they hold each other accountable for it. So if someone's in a grumpy mood, so what are you focusing on? You know, little things that go on. And as you said, little things make a massive difference in the big picture. So just having that awareness of tweaking things. Yes, why not?
I agree. So share with us what you're doing right now in as far as the reach out that you're doing to people. I know that you're offering coaching sessions during this quarantine situation. So go ahead and let people know what you're offering out there. And then if they do want to get in touch with you, what will they receive? How can you support them through this process?
Okay, so what I am doing right now is offering people free one-to-one coaching. So if there's something that you have a struggle with, if there's a challenge that you want to work towards moving forward from, then a free session with me would work. I'm also working with schools and university, with their staff, with their parents in terms of mindset training programs. So that's something that I do. I am also moving forward when things change. I think corporate trainings is what I'm really looking to bring the SMILE into the corporate environment, where it's not just about looking at programs, algorithms, techniques and logistics, but also looking at mindset, because companies are willing to invest in a lot of that stuff, but then when it comes to mindset, knowing that their employees need to be in the right state of mind, I think that's the awareness I'm working to build with. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
okay.
On my Facebook page, after completing 700 days, what I had thought was I would put an end to this when I touched 2 years. But of course, I myself am so happy doing it. And then there were people saying, no, why would you want to do that? So I thought, okay, I introduced something called Wise Wednesdays, where, like you have invited me, I've started to invite people from my own page to speak. So these don't essentially have to be high achievers or anything, but just people who are speaking value, people who have been listening to the conversations, who have a lot to offer in terms of perspectives. I've begun to call them on board, and we just have a nice conversation, heart-led.
Amazing, beautiful. So I've already shared the handout with all the attendees. So they have a breakdown of what SMILE actually represents, and also your contact details are on there as well. I think your social media handles are all there, also mentioned on there, so people can actually reach out to you. There will be, I think, a lot more impact from you with regards to sharing your message. And if what you're saying resonates with people who are on here in any capacity, I think that will be the ignition for them to stay in touch with you. And if they need more support, then they obviously can reach out to you as well. So I'm also conscious of the time, and you know about me, I can get very carried away with time. So what I want to know is, I'm going to be slowly wrapping this up. So I've got a couple of questions that I want to put to you.
Yes.
And after that, I'm going to do a quick fire round where I want you just to give me some quick instinctual answers. So I'm going to ask you a few questions that I had already in my mind. These are not quick fire rounds. These are just getting to know you a little bit deeper. And one of them is basically, what did you overcome that you would say was your biggest obstacle to get you to where you are right now?
Can I say two?
Oh, sure. Go for it. Tell me.
Okay, so the first one was, and it was a limiting belief. I used to think that nobody listens to me.
Isn't that interesting?
That's why I laughed. And the other thing was, people treat me like a doormat. So I had to kind of come out of that and realize that nobody can treat you like a doormat until you do that to yourself. And so.
Right. Well, I'm just writing these down, by the way, while you're saying them, because I do want to keep what you're sharing with me as something that I actually feel like I'm learning from this as well. So I'm making some notes. My next question is, how do you create a harmony with your personal life and your business?
Ooh, good one. Prioritizing. For me, prioritizing has worked immensely. So I started when the kids were really small, but it has always been about prioritizing. If they had exams, I would allow the writer in me to take a step back. Or even now, what is important? When can I fit my speaking and my coaching in through the day without interrupting life at home, and without making myself feel too, how would I put this? Without neglecting myself or the home, having those priorities in place.
Okay, that's an interesting one. And the other question I've got for you as well is, what inspires you to do this every day?
My children.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, just knowing that I have these two amazing people who are watching, who are my cheerleaders, who are my mirror, just knowing that they are there for me, knowing just makes me keep pushing forward every single day. So yeah.
Incredible. I'm just going to share with you a little bit that we've got a couple of people who are actually making some quite big realizations for themselves as well. So I'm just letting you know, because you can't see that, but I do want to let you know that people are resonating with what you're saying as well. So great insights at this juncture. Thank you for sharing with that. And also the shelf versus self-help development, I think, was quite a tickler for someone as well. So, and you've got some people who are going to be partying with you when you reach 1,000, by the way. And they're like, yes, we will certainly have a party at 1,000. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know on that, because sometimes while we're doing these sessions, we sometimes do feel like, is it really resonating with people? And I'm just letting you know, yes, it is. Like, as if that's a surprise, but I'm just letting you know. So I'm gonna go through a couple of, well, there's 5 questions, and I want you to just give me quick answers that come from your instinct. Okay, so don't think about them too much. Just give me what comes naturally. All right, so I'm gonna read them through, and you just give me them quick. Right, so one piece of advice that you would give to entrepreneurs.
Trust the process.
By the way, I'm going to be like, oh, this is nice on every single one. What's your superpower?
My smile. I don't want to sound cliche, but my smile.
Love it. It's a good one. So how do you stay connected with yourself?
With ice cream. You didn't expect that, did you?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing to stay connected.
We met over Pinkberry, didn't we? I don't hold my meetings in coffee shops. I don't hold them in coffee shops. I just need a scoop of ice cream to let that inner child come out. I just feel like so relaxed and
Okay, then I'm going to ask a completely random question. What's your favorite flavor?
What's my? I like Pinkberry. I like original. I like it with pomegranate and granola. I know that.
Isn't that interesting that you like original?
I like original.
That just says so much. I'm not even going to go deep into this, but yeah. Okay, next question. You've kind of answered this, but here we go anyway. What's the most impactful book that you've read?
Okay, I liked Dale Carnegie, How to Influence People and Win Friends. So I'm not a reader. That might come as a surprise to you. I'm not a reader, but the one book I've read and would recommend to people is How to Influence People and Win Friends, Dale Carnegie.
Interesting. A lot of people have recommended that book, and I still have not read it.
I have 2 copies. We should meet up for Pinkberry.
Yeah, you're planting the seed now. You see, that's what you're doing. You're planting the little seeds. And the last question. Please describe for me, from your perspective and your experience, entrepreneurship in 3 words.
Whoa. In 3 words. It is a learning. It is a journey. And it is you. It is you.
Amazing. I love that. Oh, I love these things. I think I could carry on with these kind of questions, like 10, 12, 15 of them, but then it would just be like a question and answer session. I would this is the kind of stuff that I really think really connects to people, where we get to know you a little bit deeper than what we'd normally see you on Facebook, on Instagram, doing what you do. But I wanted to just wrap up with a quick summary of what I've taken away from what this session has given everybody with regards to learning the SMILE strategy and understanding what the whole process is about. It's really about, for me, learning how to silence your mind and becoming a lot more connected within yourself, understanding your intentions for why you want to do what you do, creating that level of making peace with letting things go is also quite an important one that I realize it is actually very crucial. And looking at things right now, it's very important in how we do that. And of course, then allowing ourselves to embrace possibilities, which is one of my favorite things, because I always like to ask curious, empowering questions, which allow my mind to find the amazing answers that I never thought existed. So for me, the SMILE strategy is something that I really connect to. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for also allowing people to reach out to you with regards to your coaching sessions. And if you are open to doing more of these kind of things, I'd love to have you again and do something where we can you know, do a bit of a deep dive into another realm of you. And I'm fascinated by NLP and hypnotherapy as different modalities. I've done NLP myself and with emotional intelligence. And I think it's super important for people to understand how you can maximize your potential by understanding the power of your mind. So if you're up for that, maybe we can delve into that a little bit deeper at a later stage as well. So I'm holding you to this to do another session too. Yes?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So thank you, Ruqya, for being here. Thank you for spending the time with us. Has there been something that you've taken away from sharing your experience during this session as well?
What I've taken away is the kind of person that you are, so open, so warm and welcoming. I mean, yes, thank you. That goes without saying. I mean, to be in that space of openness, to learn, to appreciate and encourage people. And what I've realized is entrepreneurship is so much like life itself. You know, it's like a journey where you're literally growing through that journey. So making it about what you want to do, what you want to deliver is how I feel people should look at it, and not worry instantly about the money or the returns. Yes, it will come, but knowing what you're delivering and are in service, I think that's what makes an entrepreneur a true entrepreneur.
Oh,
so thank
beautiful.
you.
Thank you for sharing that element. I really genuinely appreciate your time. And thank you to everybody who's joined us today as well. I think it's been interesting for me as well, launching this webinar series. This is the first one that we've done. I'm truly thankful that you were able to be the first person to join me as my co-host. Thank you for saying yes. I know I threw you in there and I was like, look, we're supposed to do it on the 18th. How about the 11th? And you were all in. So I love your flexibility. I love the fact that you were ready to go on this. And I'm super thankful that you showed up, and you showed up totally yourself, being fully authentic and present. So I thank you for that. Just to wrap up quickly as well, there will be a video recording sent out to everybody who's attending. So if you do want to watch this again, please go ahead and do that. It will only be accessible for the next 48 hours, after which you can then find it on my YouTube channel. And at the same time, the handout has already been shared with everybody. If for whatever reason you cannot save it or you have an issue with it, just send an email to me, Fari@hubpreneur.com, and I will more than happily send you the copy of Ruqya's amazing handout and contact details on there. So stay tuned for the next session, which is going to be held next week. There will be more information that's going to be shared with you. I'm going to be inviting amazing people who are going to teach you more about what they've learned through mind hacks, motivation, and methodologies. And there will be another amazing co-host that's going to join me for next week. So stay tuned for that one. Please do follow us on Instagram at Hubpreneur, and you will stay ahead of the game when it comes to anything that we put out there. Thank you so much for joining us. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Ruqya. Thank you, everybody. Have an amazing afternoon. Signing out. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much, everybody.